Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, council and staff. I'll call a meeting to order. Can I have a mover and seconder to do so, please? Councillor Moore. Councillor Ma. That the regular meeting of the Council of Township of Springwater of November 18, 2020 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Due to COVID, council has taken the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, council is participating in the meeting electronically, as is staff. You have choices to be able to watch or listen to the meeting. You can watch the meeting live on the township's website at www.springwater.ca. You can listen to the meeting by calling in during the meeting at 647-558-0588 and using the ID 810-6160-1332 and then the pound sign. And this is available during the meeting. And if neither of those work, then those who want to watch the live stream can review the meeting at their convenience by watching the video on the township's YouTube site. Before I get into the rest of our agenda, I'd like to welcome Ms. Jazvinderradigan, our new Treasurer and Director of Finance, who's on with us virtually tonight. She's joining us at the end of the month, and we look forward to having her with the team. Welcome. Disclosure of pecuniary interests. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I have one to disclose. I have a conflict with the items on the agenda 5.1, 8.5, and 13.1 regarding the code of conduct matter on the agenda. Moving to item 3, at 3.1, we have a deputation, and I now call upon Mr. Dennis Ganon and Mr. Lawrence Pavan, who are joining us electronically with a deputation request relating to the Anton Mills Community Recreation Association 50th anniversary beautification. So I turn it over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor Allen and members of council. We thank you for allowing us to speak to you this evening about the Anton Mills community. First, I'd like to introduce Lawrence Pavan, the chair of the Anton Mills Community Recreation Association. And for those who don't know, I'm Dennis Gannon, a longtime resident of the community. We would also like to first congratulate council on the purchase of the Hasty track. We look forward to see how it develops out in the future, and most importantly, the start of the new fire station. Our purpose tonight is twofold. First is to let you know that in 2021, there will be a community association in Anton Mills for 50 years. The second is to suggest the beautification of the community park through a series of property enhancements and potential recreation improvements. To give you a bit of a background, Anton Mills has had a community association since 1971. It came about when a new resident thought there should be a skating rink for the children. Meetings of the residents were held with the Township of Vespra, and through their approval, a community association was formed. The association has prevailed throughout the years. Although we have had some difficult times, as a community, we've held strong. We thought we should share with you some of the things that have occurred in the community and what the community has funded. First is our multi-purpose recreation pad. When the original community association was established, it was for an ice rink, and that rink was built in 1972. In the mid-80s, it was rebuilt and enlarged and has kept to the test of time as we speak now. It shows no form of deterioration and is in great shape. The community also built a rink house, and within that, there's a change room, the mechanical room, and you can see that it has a steel roof, which again, the community added in the 1990s. Behind that rink house was the original playground equipment that the community purchased. It was only removed this year. Our park has a ball diamond, backstop, benches, and at one time there was thought of lights. History indicates that the lights were never installed due to a community outcry, and they were in fact sold to the township of Vesper at a loss. It is likely believed that the original door and park lights were the ones that came from Anton Mills. The backstop and benches that you see in this photograph are the originals. We are very proud of our pavilion.
Excuse me, Dennis.
Yes,
We're not seeing the presentation. I believe you're supposed to share your presentation so that we can see it.
let me go back here then. I apologize. I thought I had hit the share presentation. I'm sorry, Renee, can you help me out?
Yes, so if you go to the bottom of the screen, you'll see the share screen button.
I'm not seeing that, unfortunately.
You'll have to
Oh,
hover,
there it is. I got it now.
okay. And then pick the presentation on the
There we go.
page that comes up.
Okay. There we go. We're at our pavilion. How's that?
Not yet.
No, it's still not showing.
No? I apologize.
When that second page comes up, Dennis, and you pick your screen that you'd like to share, there should be an option at the bottom that says share again. So you'll have to, there we go.
There we go. Okay,
There we go.
good.
Yeah, so you'll just have to put this on the presentation on. Right now, we're just seeing your Zoom screen.
There we go.
Perfect.
Can you see the screen now, or the pavilion?
Yes,
And
we
then-
can.
And then if you go to full screen, you can get rid of those slides on the left and it expands the presentation to full screen.
There we
That's
go.
it.
Perfect. Sorry, my apologies. Okay, so our pavilion, as I said, was built in 1997 and totally funded by the community. The community center addition was constructed in the early 2000s, and the addition is a welcome piece to our community. Many times there have been community events held in this, and it's a great place with a modern kitchen, washroom facilities that are handicapped. And again, this was totally fundraised by the local community. As well, all the tables, chairs, dinnerware, fridge, stoves, freezers, pots and pans that are in the community center were provided by the community. All this was done through fundraising, through generous donations from our residents, strawberry suppers, dances, raffles throughout the community. From the late 1970s until now, Anton Mills has grown with several developments. Currently, there is one new development underway just near the community center. And as of this past week, 3 houses were being constructed. As well, we know that there's a larger development south of the community in north of Binney, which is in the planning stage. And we understand that there's another smaller development just at the end of Luella, which is being considered. Anton Mills is unlike other communities in our township, such as Phelpston, Minising, and Hillsdale, which may be similar in size. While we are smaller than Elmville and Midhurst, Anton Mills does not have any commercial presence, such as a store or a post office, like those communities. Further, those communities, as well as the village of Grenfell, have a cemetery. We have no cemetery where history is recorded. Our purpose this evening is, while council is looking at the 2021 budget, they consider what we as a community recreation association suggest could be done at the community park and hall in support of our 50th anniversary. We believe that the community residents and others will benefit from a park beautification and an enhanced recreation opportunities. We believe it is also important for you to note that before requesting this delegation, we met on site with township staff and had a great conversation. Some of the suggestions, I understand, may already be considered under budget considerations. Our first suggestion is to hard surface the ground of the pavilion. Currently, it is a limestone base with picnic tables sitting on top of it. Obviously, it is difficult to keep clean and can be very dusty. We believe that there are great opportunities by enhancing the structure. We know that family reunions are regularly held under the pavilion, and we've held many of our community events. By hard surfacing the area, we believe it could become a venue for small weddings, celebration of life events, a possible Friday night farmers market, along with craft shows sponsored by the association. The rear deck of the community center is in need of a replacement. It is our suggestion that it be enlarged so that there are steps going in both directions. And by doing so, the kitchen and washrooms will be addressed, making them more convenient and safer to get into the building. To protect the building from damage caused by vehicles, we're going to recommend that large rocks or stones be used to delineate a walkway along the building, as well as in front of the pavilion. So as you can see, there's a yellow area there that is on the slide. We're going to suggest that removing the old broken posts in front of the pavilion, and by placing rocks and stones, they will act as a barrier and start the park landscaping design of the park. One of the key requests for 2021 is the creation of an anniversary native plant garden along the east side of the pavilion. So the area in yellow that you're seeing here. And these are more ground shots of that same area. Within this garden, we would incorporate the stone markers and the trees from the Peace and Tranquility Park established in 1993 by the 1991-94 members of the Vesper Township Council, along with the Anton Mills Community Association and the former Anton Mills United Church. Anton Mills became the home of many families from outside this area, such as mine, in the late 1970s and early 80s with the early development of the community. Many of those families who came from the different areas of the province have remained here in the community. What is also very impressive is that the community and its attributes have made a lasting impression on their children, so much that a number have returned back to the community now with their own homes and children. As a result, we now have third and fourth generations living here. This, we believe, deserves some form of recognition, and therefore we're going to request that we be able to engage with staff to discuss adding legacy stones in the garden. When constructing within our community, it is not uncommon to find large rocks or boulders on these properties. These stones can be engraved with the family name, where they came from, and where they arrived. As an example of this, the following slides are from the Wilno Heritage Park. The first Polish settlers who came to Canada in the 1860s. They settled in the Renfrew County area of Barry's Bay, Wilno, and Round Lake. And for those who don't know, this is an area along Highway 60 east of Algonquin Park on the way to Ottawa. A heritage society was formed several years ago to acknowledge these pioneers as the park was developed. And as you can see from these stones, as I was talking about, this particular family came from an area in Poland in about 1882, and they settled in the Sherwood Township area. This next stone is actually my descendants, my great-great-grandparents. Their Polish name was Lorbecki, and they turned out to be Lorbeckis in the English definition. It is this garden that we modeled our design from. We believe that developing an anniversary garden in the area shown previously along the south side of the parking lot will offer significant beauty and enhancement to what is now nothing more than a baseball field. Returning to our suggestions of the pavilion, enhancing this area would provide an excellent backdrop for weddings and reunion photos with the gardens. By utilizing native plantings, we also improve our nature habitat for birds, butterflies, and bees. We can attest that throughout the year, many people stop by our park, Ours and their enjoyment would be enhanced by a park beautification and actually making it a park. The residents of Anton Mills have been tremendous supporters of the facilities and programs in the community. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed a page here. To enhance recreational opportunities in the park, we're going to offer the following suggestions. First of all, a walking path along the perimeter of the park. Walking is one of the easiest and best exercises we can do. A limestone screen path along the exterior would result in an approximately 0.5 kilometer walk. We all know that Horseshoe Valley is an extremely busy road, and that with a measured walking path, it would be an ideal setting in our park for those older adults and families looking to get some exercise. Along the path, or perhaps in an area adjacent to the playground, we would recommend the installation of outdoor exercise equipment. We have seen an increase in the park use by residents and others, and the placement of outdoor exercise equipment would enhance its recreational use. This idea has been discussed numerous times with residents who think it is a wonderful idea and would frequently use it if installed. Finally, we are suggesting that a multi-purpose pad be transformed in the summer to a pickleball court. Pickleball has become very popular with adults of all ages, especially those with knee issues. Other than walking, there is really no recreational activity for those of a more mature age in our community. This, we would believe, would enhance our recreation activities. The residents of Anton Mills have been tremendous supporters and developers of facilities and programs within the community. This has been done with council's approval, but with minimal financial support. The Recreation Master Plan is a guiding document and speaks to more regional developments. We suggest that there is a need for local initiatives such as we are suggesting, and that the funds received in the past from the developments that have occurred in our community could potentially be used for this purpose. As you deliberate the budget over the next several weeks, we ask you to have staff consider our suggestions and ensure that funds are available. Anton Mills is a growth community. We believe it is now time to beautify the empty field with a park many will want to visit and grow the recreational activities available to our residents. As a community recreation association, we welcome the opportunity to work with township staff and to bring to fruition the suggestions. So to recap, we're requesting an anniversary native plant garden, hard surfacing the pavilion, replacing the rear deck at the community center with a much larger one, the creation of a perimeter path along the exterior of the property, the potential installation of outdoor exercise equipment, and the creation of pickleball courts on the multi-purpose pad. We thank you for your time, and we would be pleased to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Dennis and Lawrence. We'll start by getting this on the table. A mover and seconder, please, to receive the delegation. Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Ma Chapman. So I'll open up councillors to comments, questions. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Dennis Gannon. I thought your presentation was fabulous. I think you've come up with some great ideas, great initiatives. I'm just curious if you've done any costing yourself to sort of give us an idea of what we're looking at for funds.
We only came up with these suggestions late this summer. Other than really manpower, there isn't, I don't believe, a huge expense. A lot of soil is available. We know that there are rocks available, and I don't think it's going to be very difficult to find the boulders that we need. We're not suggesting that we use armor stone. We're suggesting that you use actual boulders and rocks from the community. So with the one development that's already currently under development, there'll be stones from there. And I think we could probably talk to some local farmers to to get some boulders if necessary from their property. I know staff has, as I said, indicated earlier that they're looking at the deck already at the back. And I believe that the concrete in the area of the pavilion is in the approximate area of about $10,000 to do so.
Councillor Ma?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I think it's a really beautiful idea. I do have some of the items on the budget for this year. But I was wondering if I can make a motion. Do I do that now, Renee? Wondering if I can make a motion that refer this to the Recreation Advisory Committee, because that's what they're for. And let them look over it, refer it to them.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Coughlin? Any further yes, Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Allen. The last 3 points on there, the walking path, the recreations or outdoor equipment, and the pad, I can see that going to RAC just to see at what points it is part of the plan and if there is allocation already for it in the future. And I remember years ago when I was able to sit on the Ant Mills Community Hall Board, there was discussion of the community garden, and from what I understand, it would give families an opportunity to engrave their own and purchase. So at what cost would the community garden portion of that be to the municipality? Through you to Mr. Gannon, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. I don't have an actual cost. Again, we only discussed this late in the year when we met with Director Smith and the Parks and Recreation people. We don't suggest that this is more than a $5,000 to $10,000 fee. The native plants, I believe, I think what I can suggest, and Lawrence will back me up on this, is I think there'll be a lot of like in kind going on with this. There are many gardens in Ant Mills, mine being one that has a lot of native plants that need to be removed and moved along, and we have lots of families I think that would contribute to that. In regards to the legacy stones, that's something we would have to work out with the clerk's department. I understand that there was some work being done on how we put people's names on structures or in facilities. The legacy stones would be the responsibility of the person who is doing it, provided that were to go forward. The engraving of the stone would be at their cost. I would suggest that we would have to have a policy as to the type of font, the size of the stone, and who would actually do it. There are a number of local people who actually do stone engraving, so it would be something that we would work out. Again, I appreciate you're asking me for dollars and cents that I can't give you. And it's at this point, it's more of a discussion that we can perhaps enter into with the Parks and Rec Department.
So Councillor Ma's suggestion, resolution is consistent with other projects like this, putting together a business case basically with more details and costs with respect to it, and starting at RAC and then eventually possibly coming to council again with more of a business case and more information with respect to each component. So I think that is a good idea. Councillor Hanna?
Thank you, Mayor. And further to your comments, Mayor, I think also if it included a prioritization, in other words, if we can't afford to do everything, what would be the main things? And obviously some of the simple things like the rear deck and those sort of things obviously would be done. My question through you to Mr. Gagnon is, who would maintain the garden? Would that be volunteers or would the township be taking that on?
Thank you, Councillor Hanna. I would respectfully suggest that it will be the community that looks after the garden. There are a lot of people in the community of a more mature age who are looking for things to do. Gardening is one of the things that many of us do in our community. And a simple garden, the garden would approximately be 1,000 square feet. So it's not onerous by any means. And by using native plantings, you actually leave the plants for the winter. So it'd be a spring cleanup and a three-season event. So it would be a community thing for a number of years before the township would actually have to be involved with it at all.
Okay, did you have your card up again, Councillor Ma?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I did. I was just going to say the same thing as Councillor Hannah did with prioritizing some of the items. I know the couple of the top items I have on the budget for this year, the pad, the deck, some lighting, etc., like that. I also think if the community, maybe community hours would be able to look after the garden too. There's lots of kids that go to high school, because there is a possibility that they could look after the garden along with the season's residents there. Just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you. So Clerk Ainsworth, do you have the wording for the amended motion, please?
Yes, thank you, I do. That the request from the Anton Mills Community Recreation Association be referred to the Recreation Advisory Committee for review, and that RAC report to council with its recommendations.
Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. All right, thank you again, gentlemen, for coming and delegating to us, and we look forward to the detail that you're able to find with respect to the components.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, moving forward to item 4, question period. Members of the public are invited to ask questions of council or make comments regarding an item on the agenda. In an effort to accommodate the question period, the process followed is submitting the questions in writing is one option. The clerk will read the submissions during question period, or submit a request to make an oral submission. Members of the public can request to make oral submissions via electronic attendance through Zoom during question period portion of the agenda. Questions and comments will be accepted once the agenda is published on the Township Civic web portal. Submissions received prior to the agenda's release can't be accepted, but once it's released, it can be. And the submissions will be accepted until 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Clerk Ainsworth, have there been any questions for this meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There has been one submission from Douglas Dunn of 1742 George Johnson Road, and he states, with the ever increasing COVID-19 positive cases per day in Ontario, and Premier Ford seriously considering placing the entire GTA under level red, my question is this: will Springwater Township allow GTA residents to flock to the local ski resort located in Springwater should a level red be implemented, putting us at risk to contract coronavirus?
Thank you, Mr. Dunn, for the question. Unfortunately, restricting access to different places in the township by people out of the township is really not within our municipal jurisdiction. But we have been working with the ski resort, and they are working with a local health unit. So there's been communication between them and the health unit and ourselves with them to ensure that there is the establishment of safe protocols of operation given COVID restrictions. So they are being watched and, as I say, governed as far as protocol, COVID protocol, by the health unit, and we will continue to be monitoring that. So there will be definite protocols and procedures that will apply to the ski resort industry. And also, we as a council passed a motion 1 or 2 meetings ago, basically, to write a letter to the provincial government to come out with more standardized rules and regulations with respect to the ski industry, ski resort industry. So that has been sent by us to them as well. So again, I thank you for the question. Moving on to minutes, item 5.1. Can I have a mover and a seconder to get the minutes on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. A request to pull number 4 and number 5, the special meeting November 4th, 4 p.m. and the closed meeting November 4th will be voted on separately due to the conflict that I previously declared. And I'll be turning the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin to complete that. So we're dealing with minutes items 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. Are there any questions or comments with respect to those minutes? Okay, so I have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the special meeting of council October 26, 2020, the special meeting of council October 28, 2020, special meeting of council closed session October 28, 2020, the special meeting of council November 4, 2020 at 5 p.m. and the regular meeting of council November 4, 2020 be accepted with the exception of items 4 and 5, which will be dealt with separately. All those in favor? That is carried. I'll now turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin to deal with the minutes at item sub 4 and sub 5.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through you to Clerk Ainsworth, as we've already had mover and seconder for the entire package. Do you require a second additional mover and seconder? So I first asked for a mover and a seconder to have the minutes of the special meeting of council on November 4th, 2020 at 4 p.m. and the special meeting of council closed session on November 4th, 2020 put on the table, please. A mover and seconder. Councillor Moore and Councillor Chapman, thank you. Any comments or questions pertaining to these two items? And seeing none, the recommendation reads that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as printed. And all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And I can pass the chair back to Mayor Allen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. Moving on to 5.4, minutes of boards, committees, and organizations. Can I have mover and seconder to get this on the table? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma. Any comments with respect to items 1 through 4 in the minutes? Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just in respect of item number 2, minutes of the economic development, August the 13th.
Yes, go ahead.
My question with respect to that is in 6.2, it refers to some comments with respect to the Elmville Community Hall and the possibility of a mural being placed on the side of the building there. I don't know if that's something that's moving along down the pipeline or if that's just something that was put in there for consideration. My only concern with that is we also did discuss and purchase a projector that would have been suitable for outdoor events. Unfortunately, we haven't had an opportunity to make use of it. My only comment with respect to the mural is that's also the perfect area to possibly paint the wall a color where we could actually utilize it as a screen for projecting images onto during community events and any other event we might like to hold there. So I just wanted to kind of get a sense of where we actually were as far as that particular idea was, or is that just an idea that was floated and will we have further discussion on it down the road?
Thank you. I'll turn to Director Spagnell on that particular point to tell us the status of this item.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So the works and the costs and whatnot have been sorted out for that particular project, and it was something that staff had slated to get done. As far as that goes, it's part of the work plan to take a look at that mural. So it is something that is an initiative that staff is looking to move forward with.
Was there a projector contemplated with a, sorry, a screen contemplated with the projector? Councillor Cabral, do you remember? Oh, yes, CEO Schmidt's nodding his head. Go ahead, CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I believe there was a projector and a screen purchased already, is from what I understand. So those two items have been purchased. And just further to that mural, I think, to further to Director Spagno's comments, I think the idea is that we'd be going out and trying to canvass the community, if you will, to see who might be interested in creating such a mural. And obviously that information would be coming back to council for your consideration and approval.
Okay, thank you. Follow on, Councillor Cabral.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Allen. My only comment with respect to the screen is that particular screen likely wouldn't be suitable for the size that we might be looking for if we were able to paint a screen on the side of the building at the community center there, the community hall there. It would be much larger than the screen that they've purchased. And that's why I'm kind of suggesting, or at least looking at the possibility of maybe incorporating a screen into this particular image, or possibly looking at painting the building so that a projected image could be put on there, because it does end up being the perfect venue in Elmvale for that type of an event. And certainly would lend itself to an extremely large image, much larger than I think the screen that we've have on hand. Although I can't say for sure what the size of that particular screen is. However, I'm just stating my particular opinion on it, and that when we did discuss the screen, I think that was kind of like one of the considerations that we were looking at. I don't know whether or not this mural was in motion prior to or not prior to. I just kind of thinking maybe it might be something that we revisit to ensure that that's what we want to put up there, because once that goes up, I don't think it would be suitable to be used as a projection medium.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and through yourself. At the meeting, the intent of the mural that would be proposed is to be an interactive mural, so almost a gateway into Elmvale, because that's where people would park potentially to get to the downtown to shop. And much like the wings that are in Nashville, or you'll see murals everywhere where people basically take a selfie or take a picture with it. It basically becomes a highlight for Elmvale and for Springwater as a whole. So the intent of this mural is to have it to be interactive so people can become part of the mural.
Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I guess maybe what might be appropriate would be some kind of an idea as to if it's going to be interactive. I'm thinking it might be lower down on the wall than what I'm envisioning. I'm picturing a huge mural on the side of the building. So maybe it might be more appropriate if some more information might be able to be provided, exactly how much of the wall would be used, what position the mural would be in, and whether or not there's an opportunity to still paint the side of the building so that it might be able to be utilized for two purposes: one, for the interactive mural, and two, still be available for projecting.
Okay, good comments. We will take those back and certainly consider the comments and discussion. Any other points with respect to these 4 minutes? Okay, that the minutes of the boards and committees and other organizations listed herein be received as information. Recreation Advisory Committee meeting, February 25th, 2020. Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting, August 13, 2020. Heritage Advisory Committee meeting, September 22nd, 2020, and the Cultural Activities Advisory Committee meeting of October 6, 2020. All those in favor? That is carried. Correspondence and information items. There's no items, so we move on to item 7, budget presentation. 7.1 is the draft budget. I'll now call upon CAO Schmidt to introduce the draft 2021 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to share my screen here. Hopefully everybody can see that. Yes? And you can
Yes.
hear me fine? Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, township staff, members of the public. So tonight marks the kickoff of the township's 2021 budget process. And the purpose of this evening's presentation is to officially table the township's draft 2021 draft budget and provide members of council and the public with some highlights with respect to this plan. So all members of council should now be in receipt of their budget books and or binders. Everything was sent out to everybody electronically on Friday. Also the presentation, if you will, of the budget book was put on the township's website on Friday, available for all members of the public. So staff is requesting that the draft 21 budget be received this evening and referred to the special budget council meetings that are planned for later this month and into next month to allow council to further deliberate and consider what is being proposed for 2021. Let me just So the agenda for this evening is really to look at the 2021 consolidated budget, which is comprised of the tax supported operating budget, the water rate supported operating budget, the wastewater rate supported operating budget, and the 2021 capital plan, or capital budget and 10-year capital plan. Next, we'll highlight some of the new initiatives or program changes that are being proposed for 2021, as well as review some of the budget timelines. And lastly, consider the items that the council is required to review tonight. So as we talk about the 2021 consolidated budget, as I mentioned, it's really comprised of four main budgets. So the tax supported operating budget, the water, wastewater, and 2021 capital budget. So the tax supported operating budget is coming in with gross expenditures of $21.3 million with gross revenues of $21 million. And hence a shortfall or a net tax levy requirement of just under 300,000 or 292,702 is the exact amount that's required. Our water supported operating budget currently has 2.8 million in expenditures and revenues, and our wastewater budget has 1.6 million in revenues and expenditures, whereas the 2021 capital budget is proposing investments of 21.9 million with sources of funding coming in at 21.9 million as well. So overall, our consolidated budget being proposed for 2021 has gross expenditures of $47.6 million and gross revenues of $47.3 million. And again, hence a shortfall of approximately $292,000. Just further to provide a little bit more context for council and the public. So a 1% tax increase in 2021 equates to about $156,000. And the 2021 proposed tax levy increase, this is only for the township's portion, is right now proposed at 1.8%. And this does not include any program changes or new initiatives. New in 2021 is a change to the policing charge. So as you may recall, years past, up until 2021, the township has been essentially charging the policing charge as a special charge on our property tax bills. So it's really a separate charge that appears on the property tax bills. However, in consultation with the province and our municipal property tax consultants of late, we've been informed that we really aren't in a position or should not be charging the policing charge as is, and hence it should be rolled up into our property tax calculations. And so staff has taken that direction, and we have essentially made the adjustments in the 2021 budget and made adjustments to the 2021 figures to easily compare year over year. So that change has happened in the 2021 budget. So the impact on an average residential property and an average residential property for 2021 purposes is one that has an assessment of $485,046. So from a township perspective, we're looking at just under $35 increase, or a 1.8% increase. On the county, right now the county is proposing a 0% increase, And so there is no increase dollar-wise or percentage for the county at this time. Similar on the education piece, we're assuming that there will be they'll remain neutral and hence no increase. And so overall, essentially from a blended tax increase, you're looking at a 0.87%. Again, this includes the township, the county, as well as education. And again, equates to just under a $35 increase. The breakdown of our residential property tax bill. So essentially for every dollar that we collect from a resident, approximately 49 cents, if you will, goes towards township and policing services. 18% goes towards, or 18 cents goes towards education, and 33 cents goes to the county. From a water and wastewater perspective, so I mentioned earlier that I provided the gross revenues and expenditures. With that said, township staff has conducted an update on the water and wastewater rate structures through the assistance of Watson and Associates. And again, council will be familiar with the scenarios that were provided to council at their November 4th council meeting. And from that meeting, we've gone back to the consultants and we'll be looking at bringing the final water and wastewater rate study to the December 2nd council meeting for your consideration and approval. For the draft 21 capital budget, currently we're proposing $21.9 million in gross expenditures. And this is comprised of $9.1 million of carryover dollars from 2020, as well as $12.8 million in new requests for 2021. As you can see from this slide, there's about a 40% proposed investment in the township's road and related infrastructure. There's another 24% proposed in wastewater infrastructure, 15% in municipal buildings, and about 15% in fleet and equipment. And again, further details regarding the specific projects for our capital budget can be found in tab 15 of the budget binder. From a sources of funding perspective, again, we have $21.9 million in funding sources. The majority of the funds being proposed are to be drawn from development charges, so $9.6 million from development charges, debt $3.7 million, wastewater reserve fund $2.3 million, capital reserves $2.1 million, and we're also looking at having about just over $800,000 coming from the operating budget to support the 21 capital budget. From a 10-year perspective, we're looking at $137.6 million in gross expenditures. And again, the majority, just over 70% of the proposed expenditures are in roads and related and municipal buildings. And again, this is really to really support the multi-purpose complex, as well as Fire Station 2 project, as well as all the roads and related infrastructure projects that are currently proposed in the 10-year capital plan. From a funding sources of funding perspective, again, similar balanced budget, $137.6 million in sources of funding, with a significant amount coming from development charges, $63.2 million, debt, $28.9 million, and taxation and or the operating budget of approximately $15 million. So in addition to the base budgets, the tax, water, wastewater, and capital, staff have also taken into consideration other initiatives or new positions that they're requesting for 2021. And I'll just highlight these quickly here for members of council and the public. And obviously we'll be getting into these in more detail in our budget deliberation conversations. So the first one, we have a program change, quality care program from our fire services department, with a net tax impact of approximately $34,000. Our next program change is a security penetration testing, which is from our IT, our information technology department, with a net impact of $15,000. The next program change is an equipment operator from our public works department, with a net impact of just over $43,000. The next one is a public works clerk, a part-time position, Again, just over $28,000 net impact. The program change number 5 is a public works inspector, again with a net impact of just over $48,000. Program change number 6 is a traffic technician with a net impact of just over $30,000. Program change number 7 is a municipal law enforcement position, impact of just under $53,000. The program change number 8 is a building official. And because this position is proposed to be funded 100% from user fees for building services, there is no tax impact or property tax impact for that position. Next slide. So we have program change number 9, which is a facility supervisor in our Recreation, Parks and Facilities Department with a net impact of just over $77,000. And a program change number 10 is the facility maintenance position with a net impact of just over $53,000. So those first 10 program changes are all township initiated with a net impact of approximately $383,000 or a 2.45 net tax impact. In addition to those, our service partners, so the library is also looking at a program change. So program change number 11 is for a child and youth coordinator position with a net impact of just under $79,000. And then there's a program change from Severn Sound Environmental Association for the sustainable Severn Sound, and it has a net impact of $11,351. So all of those program changes come in with a net impact of $473,585 or 3.03% impact. So what does that look like for the average taxpayer? So as I mentioned before, without the program changes is roughly just under $35. With all of the program changes considered that I just discussed or just presented, it would be for the township's portion just under $93 from increase over last year, or a 4.82% increase. Again, the county and education would have no increases. And so the blended property tax increase would be 2.32%. And again, this considers all program changes. So the budget, the next 2 slides will just kind of go over the budget timelines, just to, again, let council be aware of the dates and timelines as well as the public. So obviously tonight we're presenting or tabling the 2021 consolidated budget. On November 23rd from 6 to 9 p.m. will be our first budget deliberation meeting. And for the most part, that will be our service partners that will be presenting, which includes the library, SSEA, the Severn Sound Environmental Association, and the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority. Then on November 25th, we will be having our second deliberation meeting from 3 to 6 p.m. And that'll get into more of the township's operating budget. Oops. On November 30th will be our third budget deliberation meeting from 1 to 4 p.m. And again, the intent of that is to kind of wrap up the tax supported operating budget and to begin some discussions on the program changes. And then on December 7th will be our fourth deliberation meeting from 6 to 9 p.m. And I believe we'll be likely wrapping up or further discussing the program changes and moving into some of the discussions on capital. Again, this is all tentative, subject to change, as in the discussion components, I mean, not necessarily the dates. The final deliberation meeting is scheduled for December 9th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we've right now scheduled that to essentially allow for council to provide for amendments to the operating budget and our capital budgets, our capital budget. And then finally, staff's looking for council's approval of the 21 capital budget, or sorry, consolidated budget on December 16th at the regular council meeting. And finally, tonight, council is being asked to consider that the draft 21 tax-based operating budget, water and wastewater operating budget, and the draft 21 capital budget as presented be referred to the special budget meetings of council for deliberation and consideration. And also that council adopt the compliance report for 2021 expenses that have been excluded from the 2021 budget presented this evening. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll pass things over to you and happy to answer any questions that members of council may have.
Thank you, CAO Schmidt. So can I have a mover and a seconder to get this on the floor before we start discussion? Councillor Cabral and Councillor Moore. So appreciating the fact that we've got 5 or 6 meetings to talk about it in detail. Welcome any overview comments that we have before we get into the granular stuff in the next 3 weeks. Council. You spellbounded them, CAO Schmidt. No, but I mean, it's a good overview, and this is what we get tonight, and we're plowing through the binder, and we'll certainly have questions as we come up with it. So if you don't want to bring up anything now, Council, I will go ahead and read the recommendation. I don't see any cards, so the recommendation is that the report from the Chief Administration Officer regarding the draft 2021 budget dated November 18, 2020 be received, that the draft 2021 tax-based operating budget, draft 2021 water operating budget, draft 2021 wastewater operating budget, and draft 2021 capital budget as presented November 18, 2020 be referred to the special budget meetings of council for deliberation and consideration, and that the 2021 tax rate bylaw be presented, including the county and education requisitions, as soon as the tax ratios have been approved by the County of Simcoe, and that council adopt the compliance report for 2021 expenses that have been excluded from the 2021 budget presented November 18, 2020, and as outlined in the subject report as a requirement of the Ontario Regulation 284/09 of the Municipal Act 2001. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, CAO Schmidt. Okay, moving on to 8.1, action reports. Let me just get there. Okay, as previously mentioned, 8.5 will be pulled, and I'll be turning the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin for that. Can I have a mover and seconder to get the others on the floor, please? Deputy Mayor Coughlin, Councillor Ritchie. Questions or desires to pull 8.2, 8.3, or 8.4? Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And it's not a poll, it's just a question. Maybe have CAO Schmidt speak to. I know that this council has had lots of deliberation, or past council as well, about the Marty Lane and the Fergusonville Estate pertaining to fire suppression. So I just wanted to make sure that the residents are aware that that has been dealt with and that we are releasing their securities, that being already taken care of. So if we could just ask for CAO Schmidt to comment on that, please.
Okay, CAO Schmidt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor or Deputy Mayor Coughlin. My apologies. It's my understanding that the water cistern matter did come before council previously, and at that time, council made the decision not to move forward with the water cistern, and hence at this time there is no requirement for that to move forward. If council wishes to do so, then we would have to bring forward a report to council for consideration of a local improvement charge that would not just impact that development, but it could impact multiple benefiting properties in the area. So at this time, it's not required.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, cards? Okay, that the recommendation contained therein be approved as presented. Sorry, that the action report items 8.2, 8.3, 8.4 be received, and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. 8.2, Yard 1 hoist upgrades. 8.3, final acceptance and security release, Fergusonville Estates, Marnie Lane. 8.4, ZB 220-010 1061031 Ontario Limited, Western Mechanical 2145 Floss Road 4 East. All those in favor? Thank you. That is carried. All right, I will turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And at this time, I would call for a mover and seconder to have item 8.5 put on the floor for discussion. Councillor Cabral and Councillor Hannah. Do any members of council wish to speak to this? And being no cards, the recommendation is that the report from the clerk regarding the appointment of the Integrity Commissioner regarding the the inquiry into the Code of Conduct complaint, Mayor Allen, dated November 18th, 2020, be received, and that a bylaw confirming the appointment of Harold Elston as Integrity Commissioner be presented for consideration at the November 18th, 2020 regular meeting of council. All those in favor? And that has carried. And this time I will put it back over to Mayor Allen.
There, I'm unmuted. Thank you. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. I have trouble hitting the button that unmutes it. I apologize. I would just like to go back to that motion and ask that it be a recorded vote, please. I couldn't get to the sign fast enough. Sorry, my apologies to you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, for not doing it sooner.
Not a problem, it's directly following. So Mayor Allen, if the chair could come back to myself again.
Yes, turn the chair back to Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd ask Ainsworth to call it for the recorded vote, please.
Thank you, through you. A recorded vote has been requested by Councillor Hannah. When I state your name, please state yes or no. Councillor Cabral,
Yes.
Councillor Hannah,
Yes.
Councillor Chapman,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie,
Yes.
and Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Yes.
That motion is carried.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. And at this time, I will pass the chair back to Mayor Allen.
Thank you. Okay, we're at 9.1, information reports. Can I move our seconder to get these on the floor, please? Councillor Ma and Councillor Cabral. Are there any questions or comments with respect to any of the items 1 through 6? Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull 9.3, please.
Sub 3 of 9.1, Ministerial Delegations Roma Conference. That's the one?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other, CEO Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we could have item 4 pulled so that staff can just provide a comment on item 4.
Okay. Any, those two are pulled. Any others? Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. As these are just information reports and they're just being received, pulling the item isn't necessary. They could be spoken to and then the entire motion can be dealt with afterwards.
Okay, so we'll start with sub 3 ministerial delegations. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. With reference to the ministerial delegation Roma Conference, I believe that, as do many others, that the province needs to create a standard code of conduct for all municipalities. Code of conducts are extremely diverse, ranging from 1 to multiple pages. A unified code of conduct established province-wide would assist investigators. Court rulings would provide a legal guidance throughout the entire province. Further, given the magnitude of powers and independence entrusted to integrity commissioners, the provincial government needs to establish ethical standards, rules, and penalties to ensure professional, impartial, trusted investigations and reporting takes place. I also believe that council needs to request a delegation to the Rona Conference to ask the province to correct the legislation, problematic challenges for municipalities and integrity commissioners by establishing a province-wide code of conduct.
Okay, thank you. And next we have the sub 4 Stone Manor Woods, Yorkwood Phase 4. CEO, turn it over to Director Spagnell for comment, but before that, I see a card, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And just further to Councillor Hannah's comment there, if Councillor Hannah would like to bring that forward later this evening in either items for future consideration or as a notice of motion, I would be happy to second that and to work with you on communicating that to our other municipalities and to get it to the province.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you. Yes, I'd be pleased to do that. I realize that I believe the mayor and the deputy mayor will be the ones making the delegation, and anything we can do to support you, I would be pleased to do that. I don't know if it's necessary because I did forward this information also to the clerk to try to accommodate everybody.
Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. The information report about the Roma delegations does ask council to provide me with any topics of discussion that they would like to submit by this coming Friday, I believe. So Councillor Hannah has provided the information and wanted to just advise council. Because of the timelines of the delegation request submissions, unfortunately, there wouldn't be time for a notice of motion, and an IFC would not be required in this instance.
So we don't need that then to consider and move forward with this. Follow up, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Understanding that at Roma, often staff, not only do we get in front of a minister at Roma, and I think that this does need to continue to move forward, and I think that neighboring municipalities are echoing the same concern, and definitely at the county level as well. I think that putting this in front of, or as Roma is approaching, would be a great approach, but I would also like for this council to take the initiative to continue to work through other avenues, because if we are denied a delegation or this falls on the staff ear, it ends there. So if it suits Councillor Hannah, he has taken that, and I would be happy to support moving forward with an alternate opportunity as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, to sub 4, the Stone Manor Woods, Yorkwood Phase 4, Director Spagnell.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a quick update. This is with respect to item number 4 and item number 6. There's been a slight scheduling change with respect to the public meeting dates, where those public meetings are going to be scheduled for December 16th during regular council. The reason is that there's been an identified need to try to move the applications forward, and there was a shortage of time frames for the meetings, and that date actually seemed to work quite well for the developers to get public meetings on board.
Okay. Any further comments or questions, council, with respect to these? All right, we have a mover and seconder for this, so that the report items listed herein be received as information. Bylaw activity report, October 2020, Honeybee Group benefits renewal for members of council, ministerial delegations, Roma conference, ZB 220-014 and RR 220-001, Stone Manor Woods, Yorkwood Phase 4, economic development update, and ZB 220-012 and SU 220-001, Springwater Development Corporation. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to verbal reports, official plan update and economic development updates. Director Spagnell.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a reminder to council that WSP, the consultant working on the official plan review, will be presenting to council on December 14th to provide an overview of the background studies that have been completed to date regarding the official plan review. In addition to that, The draft report regarding the cannabis study will also be tabled during that meeting on the 14th.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Midhurst Development Update, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So not too much to update on this. Staff are continuing to work with our consultants from an engineering and legal perspective, as well as the developers on trying to move forward with their next stage of their development. So that mainly being internal site servicing. So we hope to have something in December for council's consideration, but again, that'll be subject to making sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, if you will. So we're working forward on that, but again, hopefully we'll have something for you in December. And if I may, Mr. Mayor, on the COVID, question.
Councillor Hanna, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Questions from a resident through to you, Mayor, to CO Schmidt. Last council meeting, you mentioned that the phase 1 on the east side of Bayfield Street, you and staff were working with the developers. Can you provide any more information, please?
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Hanna. So yes, thank you, Councillor Hanna. So we did have a preliminary meeting with that developer, if you will, and really it was just preliminary discussions about the agreements, the draft agreements that we have in place or that we're considering right now for the mixed subdivision. So they're looking at trying to do some tree clearing and potential earthworks, but again, they were just trying to obtain information or clarification from staff, and just to really give us somewhat of an overview of where they're at in the process. And again, likely they'll be looking to come forward in the very short time with a report to council for some tree removal and earthworks as well, possibly. So.
Okay, moving on to COVID, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So very quickly, just again, we continue to monitor the situation, and we continue to have the group meets on a weekly basis to provide updates. As most of you are aware now, the province did announce earlier this month their new COVID-19 response framework, in which Simcoe, Muskoka, and more specifically Springwater, we fall into the yellow zone or the protect level. Further to that, to date, Springwater now has 23 confirmed cases of COVID, of which 21 have recovered and 1 has passed. The latest case was actually reported today, and it was a female in the age range of 18 to 34, and it was acquired by close contact. Beyond that, I don't have any further updates, Mr. Mayor, at this time, but happy to answer any questions that members of council may have.
Any questions, council? Okay, moving on to county updates. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Our last meeting of county was preliminary our budget. There was a slight change approved by council. There was much discussion on staff wage, and through that conversation came back, and it was actually members of county council have voted to not take a pay increase. They would be paid rose, but the rest of staff would receive the regular increase. And aside from that, there were no other changes made to the table 0%.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 10.6 municipal updates. Are there any municipal updates? Councillor Hanna?
Thank you, Mayor. Given the status with COVID-19, the physical gathering restrictions and so on, and the hazard to our fire service, I'm wondering if we know, or when we will know, if the tradition of having the fire service go around Christmas Eve, bringing Santa Claus to the community, which everybody seemed to enjoy, but given the COVID problems, as I stated, when would we be getting a definite idea whether that's going to take place or not?
I'll start with CEO Schmidt, and then I believe Chief Kirk is on the line. So CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Councillor Hanna. And if I misspeak, my chief will definitely correct me. I believe, to date, we've had conversations with the chief and with other staff on trying to organize a number of different events for the month of December. And so we're continuing to work with some of the CRA groups and or associations to create some of those events, but also the chief, I believe, is in support of bringing Santa around, I guess you will, on Christmas Eve. Again, we're just trying to make sure that proper protocols are put in place and people abide by those to make sure that everybody can enjoy that. So, Chief, I'm not sure if you have anything else to add on top of that.
Thank you, CEO Smith. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Hanna. There has been meetings with all the associations, all the stations within the township, and we're behind these events 100%. We have put in some necessary protocols to abide by COVID rules, so we will be taking the Jolly Fella around over Christmas, and also participating in some tree lighting events throughout the different communities.
Thank you. And thank you to staff for trying to make the best of this situation with the other tree lighting initiative that is, I think, underway, and we're waiting to hear the drive-by ideas that are going to come forward as a result of that. Any other municipal updates? Councillor Cabral?
Actually, I was kind of hoping, Mayor Allen, that might have come from yourself or one of the other members that was there.
Yeah.
Unless you'd like to, I know that Deputy Mayor Coughlin, we were there at the food bank, so I just wanted to maybe bring that up. I don't necessarily want to speak to it. You made an announcement there, so maybe you would like to speak to it, or the deputy.
Thank you, Councillor Cabral. I was waiting to give all of you an opportunity first to make an announcement. So it was great today. It finally got off the ground, the food bank, and thank you for those who were able to attend. And it's looking great. It's so heartwarming to have a facility that is going to be permanent for them, and they'll be able to properly operate and continue to grow and meet the demands. It's a very efficient building, and the shelving is still in the process of being erected. There has been a donation for the rest of the shelving that's going to be made and set up. There was a very kind donation of $10,000 from the Lions, and Mr. Begley of Home Hardware made a very kind donation today, and they continue to roll in the support from the community and surrounding area. And so it was very, very good to see it finally come to fruition. So it's a very positive story. It was on the news tonight, so that's good. Anything else, Councillor Cabral, you want to add to that? No. Okay, any other municipal updates? Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn, and through you, I just wanted to take a moment just to thank our arena staff and our tech IT department for putting together a private public partnership. So our members of our public are able to view the arena without actually physically being in the stands. So our staff had engaged with Game On, and they will be streaming from the arena, and it is a user pay, so no additional cost to the taxpayer. This company has come in to put the new cameras in and everything at their expense. So I think this is a really great way to keep our community safe, keep the arena safe, and also provide that opportunity for parents and grandparents to be involved. So thank you to staff for that initiative, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to notices of motion, item 11. Any notice, Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. Director Spagnell did have something to provide during municipal updates.
Sorry, Director Spagnell, I didn't see.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. My apologies. The one public meeting that I forgot to mention was the additional residential units will be brought forward for council's consideration on Thursday, November the 26th. That's going to be where the draft official plan policies for additional units and the zoning will be tabled, and staff will be available to go through the specifics at that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Councillor Hannah?
Thank you. Further to the suggestion by Deputy Mayor Colgan, and I think what I understand what the Deputy Mayor is suggesting is probably appropriate, that if we pass a motion to, I'm not sure what the wording would be, but to support the need for a province-wide standard code of conduct, that way we could send it out as correspondence to other municipalities and hope they would get on board. And having said that, asking you and the Deputy Mayor to make it as a delegation to the minister wouldn't necessarily get it out to other municipalities. So if that's the motive, I'm happy to state it in the items for future consideration that I will make a motion the next council meeting to suggest that we ask the province to create a standard code of conduct.
Okay. That's the best way to handle it, Clerk Ainsworth?
Yes, thank you, through you. Yes, a notice of motion is the most appropriate avenue for this, and I will work with Councillor Hannah on coming up with some wording for the motion that'll be listed on the December 2nd meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Actually, I would like to propose a notice of motion with respect to our seasonal residents at the campground on Highway 92. I believe it's called Wasaga Pines. I could be mistaken. Anyhow, there is a group of residents who live at the back there that fall under a specific section of the zoning bylaw wherein they can only be resident there. They can be resident there 365 days a year. However, they are limited to the number of days per calendar year they may be on site. And the problem is that a good number of these particular residents are snowbirds, and they've kind of like are stuck between a rock and a hard spot right now, because from what I've heard, there's going to be an extension of the border closing into December 21st, if I'm not mistaken. That's the rumor that's going on. It was in the news today. And these particular folks are being placed in a position where, through no fault of their own, they're probably going to likely overstay the number of days they're permitted by the bylaw. So I would be seeking a motion for temporary relief from the bylaw for those particular individuals that are located at that location. This would be Prince Rupert and Prince Edward streets that are in the back of that campground. The front of the campground is zoned differently than the back of the campground. I'm referring only to the folks that have what you might call regular residences there. They live there all year round. However, they are only entitled to stay there for a maximum. I think they have to be out for 90 days. I stand to be corrected. It might be possible that Director Spagno might know the exact number, but that's a motion I would like to bring forward at our next regular meeting, so that these folks are in a position to have a place to stay without running afoul of our bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Ainsworth, is that, did you sufficiently capture that? Okay, good. Any other notices of motion? Okay, items for future consideration. Any items for future consideration? Okay, then we're at item 13 and 13.1. I will turn that over to the chair, over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And my apologies, my computer has, give me 1 second here. Thank you. And need a mover and a seconder for the approval of the bylaw 2020-093 appointment of the Integrity Commissioner. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cabral, and Councillor Maud Chapman, that the recommendation is that the bylaw listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk, or sorry, by the deputy mayor and clerk. Oh, I don't think I've ever signed anything before. All right, all those in favor? And that has carried. And I will turn the chair back to Mayor Allen for the remainder of the bylaws.
Thank you. 13.2 is where we're at. And we have 4 bylaws there. Can I have a mover and seconder to get those on the floor? Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Ritchie. Any questions, comments with respect to these? Again, the number 2 is appointing the Treasurer, Director of Finance, Jazvinderradigan. And why don't you pop on the screen there, Jazvinder, and say hello. There she is. Hi.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Clark and members of council. I'm definitely pleased to be here, so thank you.
Thank you. It's Mayor Allen, but
I apologize.
you'll get to know it. Don't worry. So we have a mover and seconder. So I'll read these. That the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 2020-091 backyard chickens licensing bylaw. 2020-094 appoint treasurer director of finance Jazvinderradigan. 2020-095 final acceptance Fergusonville Estates. And number 4, 5000-324 ZB-220-010 pertaining to 1061031 Ontario Limited Western Mechanical. All those in favor? That is carried. And a mover and seconder for the confirmatory bylaws, please. Councillor Cabral. Councillor Ma. That bylaw 220-096 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on November 18, 2020, listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? Carried. And adjournment. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Ma, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:57 p.m. to meet again in a regular meeting at December 2nd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you and good night.